Olivia, can you help me stage a car accident? The victim will be me. Gabriela Ren rasped into the phone after dialing her best friend. Olivia Li's worried voice came through from the other end. What happened? Did that bastard Pablo do something to you again? Gabriela looked up. Her tears had already run dry the moment she found out Pablo Xu had been cheating. She gazed at the sunlight she hadn't seen in 10 years. I want to leave, right now. You're the only one I can rely on. Olivia agreed without hesitation. In half a month, my brother will be in the neighboring city for a contract negotiation. I'll have him take you away then. Okay. Just then, the bedroom door opened behind her. Gabriela quickly hung up the phone. A tall and broad figure came up from behind and wrapped her in an embrace. Honey, I'm sorry. There was an emergency at work. I promise I'll go to the hospital with you next time. By the way, how was the diagnosis today? What did Dr. Kim say? Pablo's words brought Gabriela's thoughts back to that morning. 10 years ago, Gabriela had been in a car accident saving Pablo, which left her blind. To help her see again, Pablo founded Xu Hospital, spent billions, and invited the top ophthalmologists from around the world to research how to restore damaged optic nerves. For the past 10 years, Gabriela had gone to the hospital for treatment every week, 521 times, never once a miracle. She had long given up, but Pablo had begged her on his knees to keep going. Later, they had a child, and Pablo had yet another reason to persuade her. Don't you want to see what our child looks like with your own eyes? Please. I'm begging you. Even their son's birthday wish every year was for her to regain her sight. It was her love for Pablo and the obsession with seeing her son's face that kept Gabriela going until now. But when her eyes were finally healed and she joyfully went to Pablo's office to surprise him, she saw Pablo Xu entangled with another woman on his desk. The man's heavy breathing and the woman's soft moans hit her like a bucket of ice water, freezing all her joy and excitement. So this was the so-called emergency meeting that Pablo had to attend. Clothes scattered from the door to the desk. Documents knocked onto the floor, everything silently told Gabriela how desperate they had been for each other. The two bodies entangled on the desk stabbed at her newly healed eyes. In that moment, she wished she'd never regained her sight. Gabriela felt numb, clutching her chest tightly as she struggled to breathe. She fled the scene. She never expected Pablo to be so brazen as to bring that woman home. Even more shocking, none of the maids reacted. They simply carried on with their work, which meant this wasn't the first time Pablo had brought that woman home. The final blow came when her own son, whom she had carried for 10 months, grinned and winked at that woman in greeting. Without making a sound, her own son, the very person she wanted to take away with her, knew about that woman. Everyone knew the truth. Everyone, except her. Thinking of all the truths she had uncovered today, Gabriela shook off Pablo's embrace in disgust. She turned around, only to see the kiss marks and scratches all over Pablo's chest under his collar. During all those years when she was blind, she had thought his arms were warm and his shoulders reliable, but it turns out, they were filthy. Gabriela Ren shook her head. No progress. Since she had already decided to leave, there was no need for Pablo to know that she could now see. She was going to disappear forever from the world of Pablo and Ryan Xu. She didn't want either of them. Pablo sighed, whether in disappointment or relief. She couldn't tell. It's okay. Just remember, even if you can never see again, I will always love you. Tomorrow I'll invest another 100 million in the ophthalmology department to speed up the research. But for now, it's time to eat. Come on. With that, Pablo bent down and picked Gabriela up. What used to be a sweet gesture now made her feel sick. She stiffened in his arms. They arrived at the dining room. I want to sit with Mom, said Ryan cheerfully. But he was still standing on a stool, helping that woman wipe her mouth. Besides, at the dinner table, Ryan and the woman sat on opposite sides. They would never actually let Gabriela sit beside her. Everything had already been decided. Yet they still insisted on putting on an act for her. That woman sat comfortably next to Pablo in a bathrobe, more like the mistress of the house than Gabriela was. Pablo cut steak for her, peeled shrimp. Ryan poured her water. Everything seemed just like before, except now Gabriela could see the naked jealousy in that woman's eyes. The food tasted like wax in Gabriela's mouth. She looked at Pablo Xu's hands as he peeled shrimp for her, hands that had touched another woman just this morning. Her stomach turned. She stood up to leave, but then saw the woman blatantly pull Pablo's hand beneath her bathrobe. Pablo reflexively tried to pull away, but the woman held it tight and guided his hand. In the end, Even when she let go, Pablo didn't move his hand back. An even stronger wave of nausea surged through Gabriela. She couldn't hold it in anymore and leaned on the table, vomiting uncontrollably. Xu hurried to fetch tissues. Pablo reached out to pat her back to soothe her. Just thinking about where that hand had just been, Gabriela slapped it away without hesitation and coldly spat out a single word, dirty. Pablo clearly didn't catch her deeper meaning and looked aggrieved. It's just the hand I used to peel shrimp. Let me take a look at you. I'll take you to the hospital. Gabriela Ren pushed him away. I'm fine. She returned to the bedroom to shower. Steam fogged the air, and her reflection blurred in the mirror. Her mind wandered back to what she had overheard outside Pablo's office earlier today. President Xu, is it because of your wife's dead fish eyes that you're never in the mood for her? So you pour all your passion into me instead? Shut up. You're just a toy. Know your place. Pablo had never denied it. Gabriela wiped a long streak across the mirror. Her reflection sharpened. What had she looked like back when she was blind? What kind of appearance could make Pablo disregard a lifelong bond as childhood sweethearts? Forget she once saved his life, and throw away years of marital affection, just for another woman? She remembered clearly, on their wedding night, he had kissed her eyes over and over again. She had felt his tears fall onto her face. Gabri, you're finally mine. I love you. Thank you for loving me too. I'll take care of you forever. If I break this vow, may lightning strike me down. And truth be told, he had taken good care of her. They had 30 maids in the house, each equipped with sensors. No matter what she needed, a press of a button would summon help. Even though she couldn't see, he still bought her everything from luxurious skincare to high-end jewelry, anything other rich wives had. Pablo would buy her the better, pricier version, worried she'd be bored at home. Pablo even assembled a Braille publishing team to convert all her favorite books and magazines into Braille for her to read. Did Pablo Xu really not love her anymore? Gabriela thought the answer was no. He simply learned how to split his heart in two, to give one half to someone else. When she came out of the bathroom, Pablo was sitting on the sofa waiting. He scooped her up and tucked her under the blankets, holding her tightly. Honey, what's really wrong today? Did something happen at the hospital? Whatever it is, you can tell me. I'll always be here for you. Gabriela worried he might call Dr. Kim, so she deflected. It's nothing, maybe I just didn't rest well. Right then, Pablo's phone buzzed. He didn't bother hiding it and opened the message right in front of her. It was a photo sent by someone saved as little baby Sabri. The woman in the photo wore a racy little kitten costume, kneeling on the bed with a sultry look in her eyes. I'm waiting for Master in the bedroom. Pablo's breath hitched, and a smile involuntarily tugged at his lips. I'll come over once Gabri falls asleep. Come now. She's blind, can't go downstairs without someone to guide her. I miss you. Pablo quickly turned off the screen and dropped a kiss on Gabriela's forehead. Honey, something urgent came up at work. I'll be in the study for a bit. Don't wait up. And with that, he left, almost too eagerly. Gabriela lay in bed, staring at the pale ceiling above her. Maybe, deep down, Pablo had long accepted that her eyes would never heal. That's why he acted with such blatant disregard. Without the slightest attempt to hide it, she got up and quietly went downstairs. The first floor was empty, except for laughter and moaning coming from a bedroom on the right. Sabrina, where did you get the nerve? Gabri's not even asleep yet and you're already seducing me? And yet, here you are. The bedroom door wasn't fully closed. Through the gap, Gabriela Ren saw the two of them tangled together on the bed. The room was decorated in a trendy, pastel style, and clearly had been lived in for over a year, which meant this fourth person in their supposedly happy family of 3 had long been part of the household. Pablo had housed both his wife and his mistress under the same roof. He'd spend the first half of the night with Gabriela, then sneak downstairs to spend the second half in his other home with Sabrina Lin. It really was exhilarating. Gabriela covered her mouth to stifle the wail rising from deep within her. As she turned around, she came face to face with a night shift maid who had gotten up. Madam, what are you doing down here? The bedroom door behind her flew open, and out rushed Pablo in disheveled clothes and panic on his face. Sabrina followed right behind him, arms wrapped around his waist, her hands still shamelessly roaming. Pablo hastily shoved Sabrina back into the room and walked up to Gabriela. Honey, did you hear anything? Gabriela clenched her fists so tightly that her nails dug into her palms. The pain helped her restrain the impulse to slap him across the face. No, I was just thirsty and came down for some water. Pablo let out a breath of relief. You little fool. I put a glass of water on your nightstand. Why come all the way downstairs? It's dangerous. He protectively escorted her back to their bedroom. A while later, Pablo softly called out, Gabri? Gabriela didn't respond, not wanting to speak to him. Pablo, thinking she had fallen asleep, stayed quiet. Then suddenly, the bedroom door creaked open. Pablo's deliberately lowered voice entered her ears. What are you doing up here? Go back downstairs. Sabrina replied seductively. You left me hanging. Your little kitten had no choice but to come find her master. Then came the sound of rustling clothes and Pablo's restrained voice. Go downstairs. No, right here. She's blind. She can't see anything. Doesn't that make it even more thrilling? What followed was the man's heavy breathing. In the darkness, two entangled shadows collapsed onto the sofa on Gabriela's side of the room. Tears streamed silently from the corners of her eyes. She bit her lips so hard to keep from making a sound that she tasted blood. In the secrecy of the night, Gabriela witnessed everything. The last thing she saw before pulling the blanket over her head was the glass of water on the nightstand, cold and untouched. The water had gone cold. So had her heart. Pablo, I swear I'll make you spend the rest of your life in agony. Gabriela made that vow in her heart. The following days mirrored the day she uncovered the truth. The three of them went out together, and then back home pretended nothing was wrong, everything behind her back. In silence, every night, Pablo went downstairs to release his passion with Sabrina Lin, and returned at dawn to her side. Gabriela silently watched their pathetic act. Eventually, unless absolutely necessary, she confined herself to the bedroom upstairs. Soon, it was time again for her scheduled treatment. That morning, as usual, Pablo gave her a good morning kiss and helped her downstairs for breakfast. But suddenly, the ever-discreet Sabrina began dry heaving. Pablo and Ryan's faces both changed. Pablo tried to cover Sabrina's mouth, while Ryan looked worriedly at her and mouthed, Aunt Sabri, are you okay? Gabriela looked at the flustered father and son and played along. What happened? A maid. One of the maids just threw up. Pablo replied in a panic. To make the lie more convincing, he even yelled into the air, scolding the so-called maid. Gabriela caught the flash of jealousy and frustration in Sabrina's eyes when Pablo referred to her as a maid. Breakfast ended hastily, and the three of them entered Sabrina's room. Whatever was said inside, Ryan suddenly let out a cheer, then quickly went silent, as if worried someone might overhear. Moments later, all three emerged again. Ryan Su gave Gabriela a kiss on the cheek. Mommy, I'm off to kindergarten. Pablo knelt down before her too. I have to go to work. I hate leaving you. My love. If she were still blind, just hearing his voice, she might have truly believed his reluctance was real, maybe even kissed him sweetly and teased him for acting like a child. But today's my treatment day. You promised me last time you'd go with me. From Pablo Xu's expression, Gabriela could see clearly he had forgotten. Forgotten the date. Forgotten his promise. Oh! I just remembered, the kindergarten has a parent meeting today, Ryan suddenly said, slapping his forehead. Daddy has to go. Yes. Yes. Totally slipped my mind, Pablo echoed. Looking at the award-winning performance from father and son, Gabriela smiled faintly. All right, you two go ahead. As soon as they left, Gabriela sent all the maids to the auxiliary building, using the excuse of wanting to be alone. She took a taxi and followed Pablo's car, only to witness the Su father and son escorting Sabrina Lin directly into the hospital's obstetrics department. So the real reason Pablo didn't go with her to her treatment was because Sabrina might be pregnant. Of course that mattered more. They hadn't gone to Su Hospital. That way, they could celebrate freely. Oh, Aunt Sabri is going to give me a baby sister, Ryan exclaimed. Pablo gently supported Sabrina, his large hand softly caressing her belly like it was the most precious treasure in the world. His face glowed with unconcealed joy. You're amazing. Ayu. Gabriela heard those familiar words and forced herself not to cry. But the tears still came. She remembered when she first found out she was pregnant. Pablo had also lost control, hugging her and whispering the same words with trembling lips. Gabri, you're amazing. One of her greatest regrets in life was not being able to witness her own wedding, or see Pablo's joy at becoming a father for the first time. Now she saw it all clearly. while Pablo took Ryan and Sabrina to a lavish auction. Spending extravagantly on Sabrina, Gabriela quietly arrived at the hospital morgue. Olivia had told her the substitute body was already prepared. Someone was currently performing cosmetic surgery on the corpse. It wasn't necessary. Really, what Gabriela wanted to leave the Xu father and son was a pile of mangled flesh, a nightmare they'd never escape. Not even in sleep. Lately, Pablo had begun to notice that Gabriela seemed lifeless. Before, though blind, she used to sit in the garden sipping coffee, claiming it was to feel nature. She'd play building blocks with Ryan, listen to the news with him, and even cook a couple dishes now and then with the maid's help. So vibrant, so full of life. But now, aside from meals, she spent all her time locked in the bedroom, sitting silently by the floor-to-ceiling window, staring at the sky like a flower on the verge of wilting, devoid of vitality. Pablo grew more panicked by the day. Gabri, what's wrong with you lately? Are you upset I didn't go with you to your last 2 treatments? Don't worry. I promise, I'll definitely go next time. Please, don't ignore me. I'm begging you. By the end, his voice had a hint of a sob. If he was so afraid of losing her, then why keep another woman in the house? Why let them live under the same roof with no shame? He had just come out of Sabrina's room before talking to her. His lips still bore faint traces of lipstick. Did he think her blindness gave him the right to humiliate her like this? She lost her vision for him. Gabriela raised her hand. Pablo instinctively placed his face against her palm. She traced his features, the brows and eyes of the boy she once loved. His face hadn't changed much, only more mature, more composed. But his heart had changed. He was no longer the boy she would have risked her life to save. Suddenly, the booming of fireworks echoed outside. Bang, bang, bang. Brilliant bursts filled the night sky. Even the river shimmered with color. From the lawn below, she faintly heard Ryan Xu shouting in Sabrina Lin's ear. See that? Dad set off the fireworks just for you, to celebrate you giving me a baby sister. Gabriela's voice was bitter as she spoke. Fireworks? It's been so long since I've seen any. Pablo looked at her indulgently. When your eyes get better, I'll light fireworks for you for 3 days and nights, let you watch to your heart's content. Okay? You must not give up. Ryan and I will always be here for you. He wrapped her tightly in his arms and coaxed her gently. Ha, so that's what he thought. Her gloom was because her last few treatments had failed. But Pablo, oh Pablo, if you had gone to even one hospital visit with me, you would have learned the truth. Too bad, you didn't. And so, our story must end here. Gabriela pulled away from his embrace. No need. It'd be a waste. Pablo tapped her nose playfully. How could it be a waste? Don't you remember what I said? Whatever others have, you must have too. I want the whole world to know. I love you. I can't live without you. Gabriela stayed silent. Because she knew, this man professing love by day would sneak downstairs at night to tangle with another woman. Perhaps sensing her low spirits hadn't lifted, Pablo and Ryan suggested taking her to a banquet. Gabriela wasn't interested and was about to decline. But Pablo had already ordered the driver and was picking out an outfit for her. Ryan rummaged through her jewelry box and held pieces up to her. Mommy, this one looks pretty on you. Pablo chuckled. Your mommy looks good in anything. Who needs a little brat's fashion advice? They dressed her to the nines and gently helped her downstairs and into the car. All the way there, Ryan chattered about kindergarten stories to make her laugh. The car stopped in front of a grand estate. Gabriela had wondered why Sabrina wasn't with them until she saw her, clad in dazzling jewels, her slightly rounded belly unmistakable. She stood at the center of the crowd like the hostess of the evening. That's when Gabriela realized Pablo and Ryan had brought her to Sabrina's birthday party. Not just that, Pablo's parents and brothers were all present. Faces she knew from memory surrounded Sabrina, doting on her. So this was what Pablo meant by cheering her up. She was seated near the speakers, a cupcake and a glass of water placed in front of her by the father and son. Honey, just sit here a bit. I'll take our son to say hello to some guests. Gabriela watched with her own eyes as Pablo knelt before Sabrina, cupping her belly and kissing it with reverence. Ryan jumped beside them, calling out, Mommy! His uncles followed suit. Sis-in-law. Pablo glanced in Gabriela's direction, then raised a finger to his lips to hush them. Keep it down, what if Gabri hears? His mother, who once kept vigil at Gabriela's bedside for a whole week after her accident, gave him a slap on the arm. What are you so afraid of? So what if she hears? She's blind. Where else can she go without you? And Sabri's carrying my golden grandchild. His brothers chimed in. Exactly. Guys like us. It's normal to have women on the side. You only have one, already more than fair to Gabriela. Pablo's face turned stern. My wife, Xu family's official madam, will only ever be Gabri. None of you are allowed to let this slip. They all quickly agreed. Sure. Our lips are sealed. Besides, you hide sis-in-law so tight. We barely even see her. They thought sitting her near the speakers would muffle their voices. Unfortunately for them, 10 years of blindness had sharpened Gabriela's hearing beyond ordinary comprehension. Gabriela quietly listened to their laughter. It was almost time, soon. She could leave. She hadn't expected Sabrina to be bold enough to run up to her while Pablo and Ryan were distracted. Gabriela, do you know who I am? Your husband, Pablo Xu. Just got out of my bed this morning, and right now, you're standing at the birthday party he meticulously planned for me. His parents already call me their daughter-in-law. The son you gave birth to with so much pain? He just called me mom. We've been together for almost 2 years. A year ago, I moved into your villa every day. We've been having sex in the bedroom right below yours. It's a pity you're blind. You can't see how obsessed he is with me. He was just cradling my belly and crying with joy. Originally, I wanted to stay quiet. After all, compared to you, I live more like Mrs. Xu. But I'm pregnant now, and I want a name for the child in my belly. If you're smart, you'll give up your position as Mrs. Xu. Then maybe, out of pity for you going blind while saving Pablo, I'll let him buy you a little apartment and keep you like some crippled kept woman. Gabriela stared at Sabrina, who looked every bit the victor, without saying a single word. Sabrina seemed surprised by her calmness. You don't believe me? Sabrina Lin was about to say more when urgent footsteps approached. Pablo shot Sabrina a sharp glare before pretending to be composed. Honey, what are you two talking about? Gabriela smiled slightly. Nothing. Miss Lin was just saying her husband loves her very much. I was just a little envious. Pablo visibly let out a breath of relief. There was a trace of mockery in Gabriela's eyes. Pablo knew her well enough to understand she couldn't tolerate even a grain of sand in her eye if Sabrina had truly said anything outrageous. She would have already confronted him. But he forgot. Gabriela from 10 years ago is gone. People change. Pablo pulled her into his arms. What's there to be envious of? Haven't I been good enough to you? Gabriela said nothing. I'm tired. Let's go back. Pablo went to shower. A voice message popped up on Gabriela Ren's phone. You think Pablo still loves you? It's all an act. He's already promised to make it up to me. Gabriela ignored it. Instead, she kept rereading a message from Olivia Li. Everything's ready. My brother will come pick you up at the agreed time. What are you looking at on your phone? Can't find your book? Pablo's voice suddenly came from behind. Gabriela quickly turned off the screen and pretended to fumble nearby. Pablo didn't hand her the book. Instead, he wrapped his arms around her, his breath warm on her neck. Honey. A wave of nausea surged. Gabriela frowned instinctively and coldly brushed him off. I'm tired. What did that mean? Sabrina was pregnant, and now he didn't have the heart to mess around anymore? In the middle of the night, Pablo got up and went downstairs. Soon, loud, exaggerated moans echoed from the downstairs bedroom, followed by muffled whimpers, someone trying not to scream with their mouth covered. The next morning, Ryan bounced into Gabriela's arms. Mommy, our kindergarten is organizing a study tour. Parents have to come along. Can Daddy and I go? So this was the compensation Sabrina said Pablo had promised her. Gabriela looked down. Her son chatted cheerfully in her arms while making silly faces at Sabrina behind her back. After speaking, Ryan even affectionately rubbed his cheek against hers. Gabriela gently caressed his face with both hands. This was her son, except for his mouth that looked like his father's. Everything else resembled her. If Pablo cheated because he craved excitement, then what about Ryan? She had been blind during pregnancy, and each time the doctor described the baby at checkups, she would imagine what he looked like. Because she couldn't see, every move she made while pregnant was 10 times more cautious than other mothers. She even gave up her dignity, having the nanny watch her even while using the toilet, fearing she might hurt herself or the baby. And after all the hardship, after carrying him for 10 months, her son turned around and called a mistress mom. If it weren't for Ryan Su's face being so similar to hers, Gabriela might have suspected he'd been swapped at birth. Ryan finally noticed her silence and turned to look at her. Mommy? Pablo chimed in as well. Reading 10,000 books isn't as good as traveling 10,000 miles. And it's a group activity organized by the kindergarten. If it weren't for your eyes, we wouldn't have the heart to leave you at home. They'd chosen a reason she couldn't possibly refuse. Pablo was already confidently instructing his secretary to book plane tickets. So-called asking for her opinion was nothing more than a polite notice. Gabriela glanced at the destination. It was a quaint European town she had dreamed of visiting before she lost her sight. It's fine, you two go. Before leaving, Pablo gathered all the nannies and issued detailed care instructions. Make sure to place a glass of water on Gabrie's nightstand before bed, so she doesn't get thirsty at night. Help Gabrie walk once around the garden every day, to get some exercise. Feed Gabrie blueberries, she might hurt herself using a fork. Pablo went on for half an hour, as if managing a billion-dollar deal. Finally, he kissed her. We're leaving. Call me if anything happens. I'll come right back. The trip won't be long. We'll be back in time for your eye treatment. Ryan also held her hand. Mommy, I'll bring you a gift. Gabriela stood by the window, watching Pablo hold Sabrina in one arm and Ryan by the hand. They really did look like a happy little family. Ignoring the nanny's sympathetic gaze, she turned back into the room. Outside, they seemed to be having the time of their lives. Once, when Pablo was at the office for a whole day, he could call Gabriela 10 times. Now, not even once. Ryan too seemed to have forgotten all about her. Only Sabrina still made it a point to flaunt her presence 3 times a day, without fail. Today, Pablo kissed me in front of a priest at the chapel. He said he loves me. Your precious son keeps calling me mom in public. The hotel staff say we look like a perfect family of 3. Even though I'm pregnant, Pablo still can't get enough of me. We ran out of protection, so he went out to buy more. Each message a dagger, parading just how much Pablo supposedly loved her. But none of Sabrina's words could stir even a ripple in Gabriela anymore. She was waiting for the day they had planned for her to leave. That day was almost here. Today was her scheduled hospital visit. Also the day she would vanish. As Gabriela descended the stairs, dressed neatly and composed, Pablo happened to walk in, Ryan and Sabrina trailing behind. She wasn't surprised. She knew Pablo would rush back to accompany her today. After all, her recent change had clearly unsettled him. Honey, I'm back with our son, Pablo announced joyfully. He moved to lift her up in his arms for a spin around the room, but Gabriela pushed him away. There was not a trace of happiness on her face. Pablo hesitated, unease creeping in. Gabrie? Mommy! Ryan grinned and stuffed a model building into her hands. It's a souvenir for you. Feel it. Do you like it? Gabriela placed it aside with an indifferent tone. I'm going to the hospital. We'll talk later. Pablo wrapped an arm around her. I'll go with you. Ryan hugged her leg. Me too. I feel like it's been forever since I spent time with Mommy. Before getting in the car, Gabriela glanced back at the villa one last time. Pablo noticed. What's wrong? Gabriela shook her head. Nothing. It was just her final look at the place where she had lived for 10 years. The Sue Hospital was in the suburbs, near the coast. As the car cruised down the wide road, Ryan chirped happily. Daddy rushed back just to take you to the hospital. Mommy! Gabriela turned to stare out the window. I thought you were on a field trip with your kindergarten. You were allowed to come back early? Realizing he'd slipped, Ryan quickly clammed up. Pablo squeezed her hand. Yes, we came back early. I promised you. I always keep my promises. He'd also promised to love her forever, to never betray her. Too many promises. Perhaps that's why he kept forgetting them. Gabriela said nothing. Silence blanketed the car. Suddenly, Pablo's phone rang loudly. He didn't even glance at it and declined the call, but the caller was relentless, dialing again and again, over a dozen times. Gabriela spoke mildly. Answer it. What if it's an emergency at the company? Pablo lowered the car window, letting noise flood in. Whatever he heard on the other end made his face turn ashen. He snapped at the driver. Pull over! The car screeched to a halt. Pablo softened his voice and turned to Gabriela. Gabrie, something urgent just came up at work. I have to go now. Ryan will stay here with you, and I'll send another car to take you to the hospital. He opened the door as he spoke. Ryan, smarter than he looked, instantly guessed the truth in his dad's eyes. No company issue was more important than Mom, so it had to be something about Aunt Sabri. He rushed to invent a reason. I'll go too. I'm the future heir of Sue Corp. I need to learn how to handle crises. What about your mom? Pablo asked. Wind lifted Gabriela's skirt. She spoke calmly. It's fine. You two go. Pablo hesitated only a few seconds before agreeing. Honey, just wait here on the roadside. Don't move an inch. A driver will be here in 10 minutes. He didn't even wait for Gabriela's nod before jumping back into the car. Gabriela suddenly reached out and tugged the hem of his shirt. Can you not go? Pablo peeled her hand off. Gabri, this is really important. Be a good girl, okay? With that, he closed the door and the car sped off. A large truck approached from the same direction Pablo had gone. Gabriela stepped back as the driver emerged, carrying a female corpse, nameless and already lifeless. The moment he prepared to drive the truck over it, a large hand covered Gabriela's eyes. She brushed the hand away. In front of her lay the mangled corpse and the spreading pool of blood. She wondered, what expression would Pablo and Ryan wear when they saw the scene? She wanted them to know that while they left her, blind and vulnerable, on the side of the road for another woman, she had died in a car crash. This would be their final memory of her, for the rest of their lives. Whenever they thought back to this moment, pain would tear them apart. Don't look. Let's go. Gabriela nodded, then walked away with firm steps. From now on, with the vast sky and endless sea ahead, she and Pablo would never meet again. Back in the car, Pablo stared into the rearview mirror, watching Gabriela's figure shrink in the distance. A deep unease clawed at his chest. A voice inside him screamed, "Turn back. Go back." He shook his head, trying to silence it. Sabrina had called. She was bleeding and said the baby might be in danger. He told himself Gabriela would be fine waiting on the roadside for 10 minutes. Nothing will happen. He tried to push down the dread, but it sat on his chest like a boulder. When he saw the truck driving toward them, he wondered why a vehicle like that would be on this road at this hour. But he didn't stop. He slammed the gas and raced toward the hospital. When Pablo and Ryan finally arrived, they found Sabrina lounging on the hospital bed, casually scrolling through her phone. She saw them enter and whined, "Honey, I'm thirsty. I want water." Pablo frowned, voice low and sharp. "Don't call me that." Still, he stood and went to get her some water. "The jug's empty. I'll get more from the nurse's station." Ryan eagerly raised his hand. "Daddy, you stay with Aunt Sabri. I'll get it." Pablo handed him the cup and said, "All right, I'll go speak to the doctor." He tossed his phone onto the couch and opened the hospital room door. Sabrina called out behind them, "Love you both the most." Just as Pablo stepped out of the hospital room, the phone he had tossed onto the couch vibrated, its screen lighting up. Sabrina stood, picked it up. It was a call from the driver. She answered, and the voice on the other end sounded anxious. "Mr. Xu, I didn't see Madam at the location you mentioned, but there was a car accident." Sabrina cut him off coldly. "If you can't find her, then forget it. Pablo is with me right now. He doesn't have time for this kind of trivial matter." With that, she hung up. A car crash? Good, let her die. Whatever tricks that Gabriela woman was playing, the title of Mrs. Xu would only belong to her. Thinking that, Sabrina simply powered off Pablo's phone and lay back down in bed. The door opened again. Pablo and Ryan came in, with the doctor following behind. "Mrs. Xu is physically fine. The baby is healthy. The bleeding was due to implantation, which is a common physiological reaction, nothing to worry about." After finishing the discharge procedures, Pablo turned to Sabrina. "You take a taxi back. We need to go pick up Gabriela from Xu Hospital." Sabrina clung to his arm. "It's been so long already. She must have gone home. Besides, I'm carrying your baby. You really feel okay letting me go home alone?" Pablo shook her off. "Gabriela is the only woman I've ever truly loved. Show her some respect. I let you keep this baby because I don't want Gabriela to suffer further. But know your place, other than the title. You can have whatever else you want." Ryan tugged on Pablo's sleeve. "Don't be mean to Aunt Sabri. She's carrying my baby sister. Mommy must be home waiting for us. Let's go back quickly." The three of them drove back to the villa. "Honey, we're back. I'm sorry. Next time, I swear I'll." Pablo suddenly stopped speaking. Something felt off. The villa was eerily quiet. Gabriela was nowhere to be seen. The gift Ryan had brought her was still in the same place they'd left it. She hadn't come home from the hospital? I'll go check upstairs. Mommy loves staying in her room lately. Ryan ran up the stairs, but returned in less than a minute. She's not there. The nannies hurried over and confirmed they hadn't seen Gabriela return at all. The anxiety Pablo had tried to suppress began to surge uncontrollably. He instinctively reached for his phone to call her, only to realize it had somehow been turned off. Search the house! While waiting for the phone to reboot, Pablo ordered everyone to check every room. Gabri. He called her name over and over, but the fear inside him only grew. He should never have left Gabri alone on the roadside. She couldn't see anything. What if something had happened to her? As the phone finally booted up, each second felt like years. He called Gabriela again and again, no answer. Just as he was about to call the driver, the villa's front door was suddenly knocked on. Pablo's eyes lit up. Gabri. He flung open the door, only to find two uniformed officers standing outside. Good evening. Are you Mr. Xu? Your wife, Gabriela, died in a car accident on HB Avenue. We've been trying to reach you, but your phone was turned off, so we had no choice but to come here directly. Pablo Xu stumbled back, stunned as if struck by lightning, nearly collapsing on the spot. Before the officers could finish, he bolted toward the garage. Impossible, it had to be a mistake. Gabri couldn't be dead. He'd only left her on the roadside for 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes. Pablo refused to believe it. Ryan, crying, chased after him and jumped into the back seat. The boy's wailing grated on Pablo's nerves. Shut up, he shouted. Pablo sped like mad, running red lights, until he reached the place where he had left Gabriela. There, several medics and officers were gathered. Every one of them wore a look of sorrow. Pablo stared at the unrecognizable body, mutilated beyond description, clearly run over multiple times, explaining the immense amount of blood. Suddenly, a torrential rain poured down. Sorry, Mr. Xu, one officer said. The surveillance on this stretch of road was malfunctioning, so we didn't capture the accident. The perpetrator fled the scene. We were only able to identify the victim using the ID she carried. But Pablo couldn't hear a word. Regret crashed through him like a storm, tearing at his chest. With a cry, he dropped to his knees, one hand clutching his collar, the other reaching helplessly toward Gabriela. His mouth opened in a soundless scream, his eyes brimming with blood-tinged tears. He howled her name, but no voice came out. Rain mingled with his tears, flowing down to mix with Gabriela Ren's blood. Ryan threw himself forward, sobbing uncontrollably, but a female officer held him back with ease. Mommy! I want mommy! Let me go! Ryan Xu cried until he fainted on the spot. A doctor approached Pablo with the death confirmation document, asking him to sign, only for Pablo to snatch it and rip it to shreds. How do you even know this is my wife? Summoning strength from who knows where, Pablo broke free from the two officers holding him and lunged toward the body. He wanted to lift Gabriela up, like he had every other day, hold her in his arms, let her rest against his chest. But as he stared at the ruined remains on the ground, he didn't even know where to begin. Ah! Pablo let out a guttural scream of despair and finally collapsed to the floor. When he next opened his eyes, he was in a hospital bed. Where's my Gabri? He asked hoarsely. Ryan sat beside him, sobbing softly. Mom. Mommy's dead. Pablo sat up abruptly, glaring at Ryan as if blaming him. But in the next breath, his expression shifted. He pulled out the four, smiled faintly, and stepped out of bed. He bent down and picked up Ryan. Nonsense. Mommy's still waiting for us by the roadside. We need to go get her, or she'll be mad. Ryan was so frightened by Pablo's madness that he forgot how to cry. The door opened. Sabrina burst in and threw herself into Pablo's arms, beaming. You're finally awake. I was so worried. Pablo pushed her away coldly. It's over between us. I'm going to bring Gabri home. Sabrina's eyes widened in disbelief. When she heard Gabriela's name, a flash of hatred crossed her face. Why does he love that blind woman so much? Gabriela was dead, and now he wanted to leave her? Had he forgotten she was carrying his child? Forcing down her jealousy, Sabrina softened her tone. Pablo, Gabriela is dead. You saw her yourself yesterday. Her body's already been cremated. Now we can finally be together openly. Ah. Before she could finish, Pablo slapped her to the floor, his eyes bloodshot. He stepped down hard on her abdomen. Who gave you the right to cremate her? Sabrina had never seen him like this. Stammering in terror, she said, You both fainted. The police told us to take care of the remains quickly. I thought, she's already dead, so I told the funeral home to cremate her. Pablo pressed down harder. Her face went pale as blood drained away. Who told you to make that decision? Without another word, he stormed out of the hospital room. He walked faster and faster, finally breaking into a run. Ryan couldn't keep up. He tripped over and over behind him. Sabrina's cries echoed down the corridor. Pablo, come back! My stomach hurts. I'm bleeding. What were they to him now? He had only one thought in his head. Bring Gabriela Ren home. Pablo drove madly to the funeral home, but he was still too late. The staff handed him a tiny box. No photo. No ceremony. No dignity. He didn't bury her. She had always been afraid of the cold. How could he let her lie alone in the dark earth? Besides, Gabri had once said she would stay by his side forever. He wasn't dead yet. Every second apart meant it wasn't forever. He hugged the urn, walking down the road, step by step, just like the old days, under the same sunlight, hand in hand, Gabriela leaning on his shoulder as they strolled home. From age 18 to 28, from campus to marriage, he had always been her walking cane. So how could she cast him aside before she ever saw the light again? How could she bear it? By the time Pablo got home, Ryan and Sabrina had returned to the villa. Ryan sat blankly on the sofa, holding the model building he had brought for Gabriela. When he saw the urn in Pablo's arms, he asked quietly, Is that mommy? Pablo said nothing and headed upstairs. He took out his phone, wanting to find the most beautiful photo of Gabriela. But no matter how he scrolled, the gallery was filled only with images of Sabrina and Ryan. The guilt nearly crushed his chest. He locked the screen as if Gabriela's spirit could see it and he dared not be caught. Then, to his own horror, he felt relief. At least, Gabriela died never knowing how deeply he had betrayed her. He placed the urn on her side of the bed, then lay down on his own side. Honey, it's dark. Time to sleep. Like always. He gently patted the urn, just as he used to lull Gabriela to sleep. The next day, Pablo was scolding the maids for forgetting Gabriela's daily blueberry platter when another maid came forward, leading a well-dressed man. Mr. Xu, this gentleman says the madam left something behind for you. The man introduced himself. Mr. Xu, I'm from a private deposit company. Mrs. Xu left a file with us. As the registered recipient, we're obligated to deliver it to you now that the depositor is deceased. Pablo stared blankly before accepting the envelope. Inside was only a single USB drive. He brought his laptop, hands trembling as he plugged it in. When did she prepare this? Was this something Gabri wanted him to hear? He clicked play, but instead of Gabriela's familiar, gentle voice, what came out was, Your husband Pablo just crawled out of my bed this morning. I'm pregnant. Today. We kissed in front of the priest. His face went deathly pale. She knew everything. But when had she found out? As if punishing himself, Pablo listened to every single recording. Gabriela hadn't left him a single word. She knew he had cheated on her, and yet she hadn't even deigned to speak to him again. He scrolled to the earliest and longest recording. From the noisy background, he could tell it was from Sabrina's birthday party. At the villa, Pablo had always strictly instructed the maids to prevent Sabrina from getting close to Gabriela. But that day, he had been the one to push Gabriela straight into the truth. Rage consumed him. Sabrina had destroyed everything he meant to Gabriela. He stormed into Sabrina Lin's room. Seeing him, Sabrina immediately put on a pitiful face and threw herself into his arms, guiding his hand to her stomach. Pablo, after how you treated me yesterday, my stomach hurt all night. I even started bleeding this morning. Rub it for me. Will you? She moved his hand suggestively over her body. She knew Pablo still had Gabriela in his heart, but Gabriela was dead. All she needed to do now was to use the body he once obsessed over to soothe him, seduce him, drown him in lust and forgetfulness. She would be the only woman by Pablo's side. After all, how many chances does one get in a lifetime to completely change their fate? She had to cling to Pablo to become a wealthy wife. But Pablo Xu's gaze remained cold, as if he were looking at a corpse, staring at her affected expression. He suddenly wondered what on earth had possessed him to ever betray Gabriela for this woman. He had thrown Gabri away for her, and now Gabri was dead. Regret clawed at his chest. If only he could turn back time, he'd never have taken the wrong path. Pablo's hand landed on her slender neck, his eyes dark with brewing storm. "Sabrina, are you looking for death?" The next second, he threw her violently onto the bed. Sabrina didn't understand what had suddenly gotten into him. She instinctively clutched her stomach and scooted back to avoid the man advancing on her step by step. "Pablo, what's wrong with you? I know you're heartbroken about Gabriela, but her death had nothing to do with me." Pablo's hand tightened around her neck, all traces of indulgence gone from his eyes. "What did I tell you? You were never supposed to let Gabri find out about us. Why did you provoke her? Before she died, what had Gabriela been thinking before she died?" He didn't know, but she must have resented him, hated him. Otherwise, why wouldn't she leave him even a single word? And the root of that hatred was Sabrina. How dare she confront Gabriela to her face? Sabrina tried desperately to pull his tightening hands away. The redness in his eyes terrified her. He really wanted to kill her. Pablo. "I was wrong. I only did it for the child. I didn't want our baby to be born a bastard. Please, for the baby's sake, let me go." She wept and pleaded, hoping he'd soften again, but she had forgotten. Pablo had always been cold and ruthless, and now she had crossed his bottom line. "Gabriela." His grip tightened. He watched her face turn red and distorted. "Daddy, what are you doing? Aunt Sabri has my baby sister in her tummy." Ryan rushed in upon hearing the commotion. He shoved Pablo with all his might, giving Sabrina a moment to catch her breath. Pablo stepped off the bed and kicked Ryan Xu to the ground. "She told Gabri everything, and you're still protecting her? How could Gabri have given birth to a son like you?" Ryan looked at Sabrina in disbelief. How could this be? Aunt Sabri had promised she only liked Daddy, asked for nothing else. Why would she tell Mommy? Sabrina clutched her throat, gasping. Then she looked at the father and son before her and suddenly laughed. "Was it me who left that blind woman on the roadside? You two are the ones who killed Gabriela, and now you're taking it out on me?" Her gaze swept over Ryan and Pablo. "Yes, I admit, I treated you well on purpose so I could get close to you. I became a teacher at that fancy kindergarten just to hook a rich man. Yes, I seduced you. But who was it that insisted on driving me home, then couldn't even wait and had to screw me in the car? And who was it that felt embarrassed by his blind mother and shamelessly started calling me Mom? So what if I told her? You gave me the confidence to. You indulged me. I admit what I did, but neither of you dares admit that Gabriela died because of you. Cowards!" The fury in Ryan's eyes now mirrored Pablo's. Just as they were about to retort, the door burst open again. Madame Xu entered with several bodyguards. Sabrina knew her savior had arrived. Without a word, Madame Xu ordered the men to take Sabrina away. Then she turned to Pablo. "I don't care what madness you're on, but that woman is carrying a Xu child. You will not lay a finger on her, and if she gives birth to a boy, he won't be a bastard. You'll marry her." Pablo stared at his mother in shock. "Gabri just died 2 days ago. How could you say that?" "Yes, Gabri saved your life." Sue's mother's voice rang out cold and haughty. "But we also married a blind woman into our family and gave her 10 years of wealth and luxury. If we hadn't helped her when her parents had their accident, her family would have gone bankrupt. What we owed her was already paid back. She died in an accident, bad luck. That's all. There's no one to blame. Let this matter rest." Pablo hadn't even spoken when Ryan burst out angrily. "Grandma, how can you say that about Mom?" Sue's mother softened her tone and patted Ryan's head with a benevolent smile. "Don't worry. You're the eldest grandson of the Xu family. Even if Sabri gives birth to a boy, your position won't be shaken. But you need to understand, it's a blessing to have many children and grandchildren." Pablo pulled Ryan behind him protectively. "Enough. Mom, Ryan is Gabri's child, my only child for this lifetime. As for Sabrina's baby, even if she gives birth, I won't acknowledge it." He didn't even spare his mother a glance before turning to leave with Ryan. Just then, his phone rang. He answered it. Mr. Xu. Hello, this is Dr. Kim. We haven't seen Mrs. Xu for her follow-up treatment this week. Her vision was finally restored. She needs to come in consistently to maintain the results. Pablo's heart nearly stopped. His mind latched onto one phrase. Her vision was finally restored. What did you say? Dr. Kim caught the unease in Pablo's voice and hurried to explain. Afraid of being blamed for withholding the truth. Half a month ago, during her treatment, a miracle occurred. Her eyesight came back. We were going to inform you, but Mrs. Xu insisted she'd tell you herself and asked us not to. You've always doted on her, so we honored her request. She didn't tell you? Pablo ended the call, too horrified to speak. If Gabriela had only heard Sabrina's taunts, maybe after Pablo's death, he could still face her soul, claim it was all Sabrina's lies. But if Gabriela had already regained her sight, he thought back to everything that had happened over the past half-month. He rushed to the hospital and pulled up the security footage from that day. He saw Gabriela smiling sweetly, telling the staff she wanted to give the good news to Pablo herself. He contacted the driver who'd taken her to the hospital that day and learned she had gone straight to the company afterward. That was the day he lied about having an emergency meeting, and she had stood outside the office door, watching him entangled with Sabrina. She had witnessed it all. She had seen everything in the weeks that followed too, him, Ryan, and Sabrina sharing laughter, tenderness, affection. She had watched her own son call another woman mommy. She had watched her husband kneel before another woman's belly and kiss it with reverence. She had watched him abandon her by the roadside, all for Sabrina. That day, when she asked him, "Can you not go?" She had been giving them one final chance. And they chose to leave her behind. Pablo stared at the surveillance videos, the hospital, the company, their home. He watched from Gabriela's perspective every moment of betrayal, every cruel gesture, and he collapsed under the weight of it all. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't imagine the torment she had endured silently. His face turned ashen, and an unbearable pain twisted in his chest. When all the truths laid themselves bare before him, Pablo broke completely. He locked himself in the bedroom with Gabriela's urn, drowning himself in alcohol. He told himself if Gabriela saw him suffering enough, maybe, just maybe, she'd appear in his dreams. But she never came. One night, the media caught Pablo kneeling at the crash site, slapping himself over and over. The video went viral, splashing across every major headline. Netizens wept over the deep love Pablo had for Gabriela, until someone uploaded photos of Pablo and Ryan vacationing abroad with Sabrina. Didn't Mrs. Xu lose her sight saving Mr. Xu? That woman in the photos looks fine to me. Skepticism swirled, and soon the internet unearthed mountains of evidence of Pablo's affair with Sabrina. Her prenatal checkup form, father's name, Pablo Xu. Intimate videos of the two together in public. A video of Ryan calling Sabrina mom at a banquet. Conspiracy theories bloomed. What if the car crash wasn't an accident? Maybe Pablo wanted to clear the way for his mistress without looking like a traitor. He could have arranged it. And so, what was once mourned as grief-stricken love, became the most despicable betrayal of the decade. After all, everyone knew, leaving a blind woman by the roadside was inviting disaster. Online, countless users furiously condemned the Xu father and son. Along with Sabrina, even the Xu Corporation was dragged into the scandal. Its stock price plummeted overnight, and the company's cash flow came under immense pressure. But Pablo didn't care. He lived every day in drunken indulgence. The company's PR department begged him to make a public statement to clarify the rumors. He cursed them out and threw them out of his office. Mr. Xu, who had been enjoying 2 years of peaceful retirement, had no choice but to return and take over the company again. Yet the wave of public outrage was unrelenting. Numerous projects were snatched up by competitors. The Xu Corporation suffered devastating losses and would likely never return to its former glory. Meanwhile, Ryan was still drowning in grief over the loss of his mother. On top of that, he was ostracized by classmates and teachers at his kindergarten. At such a young age, he developed severe psychological trauma. But all of this, none of it had anything to do with Gabriela anymore, who was thousands of miles away. She was busy researching schools. Gabriela had always dreamed of becoming a fashion designer. If she hadn't lost her sight saving Pablo back then, she would have already been attending a prestigious art and design institute, chasing after her dream. Now, It wasn't too late to set things right. But looking at the chaotic flood of information on her computer screen, Gabriela felt overwhelmed. Olivia wasn't helping, in fact. She was making it worse. This school looks pretty famous. This one seems decent too. Gabriela sighed helplessly. I asked you to help me choose, not just name every school that pops up. Olivia munched on snacks and replied, I don't know anything about this stuff, but my brother's smart. Ask him to help you analyze it. Gabriela lifted her eyes to the man sitting on the couch across from her, refined and distant. He was quietly reviewing documents. It was Olivia's older brother, Victor Li. As Olivia's best friend, Gabriela was naturally familiar with him and also addressed him as big brother like Olivia did. Victor had always been the epitome of a perfect son type, top grades, unmatched abilities. After graduating from college, he entered the family business and, in just 5 years, secured complete control. He was known for his aloof demeanor. Thinking back, Gabriela realized she had never seen him smile. Back when all she wanted was to disappear from Pablo's world. She hadn't realized that after escaping, she had nowhere to go. It was Victor who had flown her out of the country on a private jet and brought her to Olivia. He not only took her in but also gave her a new identity. He even arranged for an eye specialist to treat her the moment she got off the plane. But Gabriela had always been a little afraid of this older brother. Now, hearing Olivia suggest asking him for help, she immediately felt like backing out. Never mind. I'll just figure it out myself. But just as she swiped at her tablet, a shadow fell over her. Your eyes haven't been healed that long. Stick to paper documents for now. With that, a few slightly worn A4 pages were placed in front of her. Gabriela picked them up and skimmed through. Though thin, the documents clearly listed the strengths and weaknesses of each fashion design program. Handwritten notes in fresh ink adorned the margins. The more she read, the more excited she became. This information was invaluable. Victor pointed at one of the schools. This one ranks highest overall. It has a long history and has produced many famous designers. Also, we donated a teaching building to them. Your admission won't be a problem. Gabriela's eyes lit up, and she smiled brightly. Thank you, big brother. Victor shook his head. It's nothing, just a small favor. Olivia suddenly leaned over, smirking. Just a small favor? Come on. Bro, I've seen that packet in your study so many times. Isn't this the one you preppa? She clamped her mouth shut under Victor's warning glare, mind zipping her lips, then patted Gabriela's shoulder and scurried upstairs. Gabriela's ears turned red. She lowered her head and pretended to keep reading the documents, but in truth, she hadn't taken in a single word. Gabriela used to keep her distance from Victor out of fear, but since moving into the Li household, she could sense that Victor was treating her differently. And deep down, she rejected this difference. It wasn't just because she had recently walked away from a failed marriage, she simply no longer had the heart for romance. Pablo's betrayal had shattered every ideal she ever held about love and marriage. She couldn't imagine gambling another 10 years of her life again. Let me know when you've made a decision. I'll handle the rest. I'm going to the office. I won't be home for dinner. When Victor left, Gabriela finally let out a quiet sigh of relief. In the end, she chose the design school Victor had recommended. As part of the admissions process, she was asked to submit a design sketch. Victor had told her it was just routine procedure and not to stress about it. But Gabriela still pulled several all-nighters to complete a wedding dress design. Back when she believed in love, her dream was to one day walk down the aisle wearing a wedding dress she designed herself. Even after all these years, she had never forgotten what that dress looked like in her mind. Less than a week after handing the sketch to Victor, he returned with her admission letter. Once enrolled, her assigned mentor recognized her talent immediately and brought her along to major fashion shows. Honing her sense of style and creative intuition, Gabriela fully embraced the university life she had been denied for so long. The cold-hearted father and son? She had long since buried them in her past. She thought she'd never have to see them again, until, unexpectedly, they appeared right in front of her. Gabriela spotted the two familiar silhouettes in the distance, one tall, one small, and instinctively turned away, pulling her scarf over her face. But it was too late. Behind her came hurried footsteps and voices calling out, "Gabri! Mom!" Ryan launched himself forward and clung to her leg, sobbing uncontrollably. "Mommy, you're alive." "I knew it! How could you just leave us?" Gabriela's face remained blank. How could he even ask that? Sorry, you've got the wrong person. Pablo shook his head. No, I could never mistake you. The woman he had dreamed of day and night, there was no way he could be wrong. How Pablo discovered that Gabriela hadn't really died was almost pure chance. Since her death, he drowned himself in alcohol. While all the company's burdens fell on Su's father hustled day and night, drinking with clients, negotiating deals, until one night, he suffered a stroke and collapsed, ending up in the ICU. Su's mother, furious and heartbroken, dragged Pablo to the hospital and slapped him across the face, hard, several times. Only then did he begin to sober up. To restore the brand's public image, Pablo offered a massive contract to hire a top celebrity as spokesperson. 5 days earlier, that same celebrity had appeared at a fashion show with Gabriela. When Pablo first saw the blurry background image, he was stunned. Gabriela was dead. Her urn still sat on the nightstand at home. How could she appear at a show? He stared at the photo for a whole day, even though it was dark and only showed half her side profile. He was certain that was Gabriela. He scoured the internet for every photo from that event. Finally, he found a group shot, this time. Her full face. Pablo clutched his chest. He felt like he could breathe again for the first time in months. He didn't know how Gabriela had faked her death. He didn't know how she ended up in France. He only knew one thing: Gabriela was alive. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find any records of her in France over the past 6 months. It was as if a layer of fog had wrapped around her, an invisible hand hiding her tracks. So he turned to the most basic method. He and Ryan flew to France, holding her photo in hand. From show to show, they asked every staff member, every guest, every organizer, until finally, someone recognized her. Gabriela Ren was now a student at a fashion design school. On the way there, Pablo had already prepared himself for the possibility that she wouldn't even look at them. And yet, here she was, within arm's reach, and here he was, still not worthy to touch her. But when Pablo looked into her eyes that stared back at him like he was a stranger, his heart was torn apart. He gripped her hand tightly, eyes red with desperation. You are Gabriela. You're my wife. Even after all this time, his touch still made Gabriela feel sick. She struggled to wrench her hand away, but he wouldn't let go. Let go of me. Ryan took the opportunity to wrap his arms around her leg again. Mommy, I was wrong. Please don't leave me. Gabriela's face was cold as she snapped. The mommy you chose is at the Xu house, getting ready to give birth to your little sister. Ryan collapsed into sobs, shaking his head as if his heart were breaking. No. It's not like that. It wasn't supposed to be like this. It was just, the kids at kindergarten always said he didn't have a mom, that his mom never picked him up or went to parent-child activities. Only Sabrina Lin ever comforted him. Later, his dad treated her so well, doing all the things he used to do with mom. That's why Ryan started calling Sabrina mommy. But just as he cried harder, he felt someone grab him by the collar and lift him off the ground. When his feet finally touched down, he saw his dad get knocked to the floor by a punch from the man who had just arrived. Victor spoke with regret in his voice. I'm sorry I came late. Gabriela let out a sigh of relief and instinctively hid behind him. It's okay. Let's go home. Pablo scrambled to his feet, blocking their path. When he saw the man clearly, he called out, Victor? In that instant, he understood everything. No wonder Gabriela, blind for 10 years, could disappear in a staged car accident. It was Victor Li behind it all. Furious, Pablo swung his fist, and the two men began brawling on the spot. Stop it. Both of you. Gabriela couldn't separate them no matter how hard she tried. Because of Pablo and Ryan's behavior, people had already gathered to watch. The commotion only drew more bystanders. Someone even called the police. The officers arrived and immediately took them all away. Gabriela, unfamiliar with the laws in Country F, quickly called Olivia Li. In under 10 minutes, Olivia arrived and tried to reassure her with a smile. I've contacted my brother's lawyer. Don't worry, it'll be fine. I mean, wasn't this a bit of a rage for love moment? Gabriela flushed with urgency and embarrassment. What are you talking about? You really can't tell my brother likes you? He never got over you. That's why he never got married. And those school documents you saw? He prepared them back when you graduated high school. If things hadn't gone wrong back then, I would have passed them to you myself. Gabriela thought of those slightly yellowed but carefully preserved pages and unconsciously gripped the hem of her shirt. Really? Olivia dropped her usual teasing tone and spoke seriously. Of course it's true. I'm not telling you this to pressure you. You're single now. If you feel something for my brother, give him and yourself a chance. If not, I just hope you'll be honest with him. Don't let him waste any more time. The car went quiet. Gabriela and Olivia soon arrived at the police station. After waiting for about half an hour, they saw Pablo and Ryan being escorted out, Victor trailing behind. Gabriela and Olivia immediately walked up to them. Pablo had been drinking heavily for a long time. His body was already weak, though it was reported as a mutual fight. In reality, it was Victor who had overpowered him. He was clearly the more injured one, but Gabriela didn't spare him even a glance. She walked right past him. Victor, are you okay? Victor ruffled her hair lightly. I'm fine. Sorry for worrying you and Olivia. Let's go home. Pablo watched their closeness with bitter envy. He tried once more to speak. Gabri, please. Give me a chance. Let's talk. Just once. Gabriela acted as though she hadn't heard him and got in the car. Back at the Li family villa. After dinner, Olivia returned to her room to video call her boyfriend, leaving the two of them alone in the living room. Gabriela, noticing the bruise on Victor's lip, fetched some ointment from the medical kit. Let me put some medicine on that for you. Okay. Victor agreed instantly and leaned his face toward her. Gabriela's face burned with embarrassment. Her eyes darted around nervously, unsure where to look. Her hand trembled, and in a moment of clumsy distraction, she accidentally smeared the ointment across Victor's lips. Sorry. I didn't mean to. She fumbled for a tissue to wipe it off, her fingers brushing against his lips, soft and warm, and in Victor's eyes. The amusement only deepened. Gabriela's cheeks turned scarlet. I'm going back to my room. She had barely taken 2 steps when Victor suddenly hugged her from behind. Gabri, give me a chance, okay? Her heart pounded, almost like she had no control over her own voice. She whispered, yes. Victor beamed with joy and pulled her tightly into his embrace. He had liked Gabriela since the very first time he saw her. She had followed his younger sister into the house wearing a high school uniform. Fair-skinned and timid, she gave him one shy glance, then quickly lowered her head and called him brother in a soft voice. At first, he thought he was just contrasting her with his mischievous sister, so gentle, so different. But then, when a classmate in university confessed to him and handed him a love letter, all he could think was, how nice it would be if this were from Gabriela. The thought startled him at the time, but also made him realize exactly what she meant to him. Unfortunately, his sister told him Gabriela already had a childhood sweetheart, and the two were inseparable. He didn't stand a chance. Then came the car accident, where Gabriela was blinded while saving that so-called childhood sweetheart. Later, they married in haste. Victor had watched the man treat her well and thought she was in good hands, so he let go and went abroad. That was until half a year ago, when Olivia called and asked him for help staging a car crash. The one asking for it was Gabriela. Now, Victor held her close, watching her quietly as she rested against him. He didn't need to do anything more. This was already enough. Gabriela had gone from stiff and anxious to now comfortably curled in his arms. As sleepiness crept over her, she yawned softly and, by chance, saw the butler pacing back and forth by the door. What is it? The butler stepped forward. Gabri, those two, father and son, they're still waiting at the gate. The child's already fainted once. I tried everything, but they won't leave. What should we do? Gabriela frowned. She had no desire to see Pablo and Ryan, but this was the Li residence. If the media caught wind of them standing outside like that, there was no telling what kind of gossip it would stir. She couldn't ignore the potential damage to the Li family. She was just about to get up, when Victor gently pressed her back down. I'll deal with them. You go rest. He rose and walked toward the main gate. Under the dark night sky, only 2 dim lamps lit the entrance. Victor stopped a few steps in front of the 2 figures huddled outside. Congratulations, Mr. Xu, on your new baby. Pablo and Ryan stirred, stiff from hours of waiting. They stared at the man in confusion. A baby? Before they could ask, Victor pulled out his phone and held it up. The bold headline leapt into their vision. Heir of the Xu family welcomes newborn, Sabrina Lin gives birth in hospital. Beneath the headline, a smiling Sue mother and Sabrina Lin, holding the newborn in the hospital room. The color drained from both father and son's faces. Pablo's voice trembled. Did Gabrielle see this? Victor rose slowly. He didn't say another word. At his signal, 5 or 6 bodyguards emerged from the shadows and moved to restrain the Sioux father and son. Pablo struggled. I want to see Gabrielle. Gabrielle, come out. Let me explain. Ryan sobbed. Mommy! The bodyguards quickly covered their mouths. Victor looked at them with undisguised contempt. Gabrielle just fell asleep. Pablo, you can't even clean up your own mess. What gives you the right to ask for forgiveness? Send them back to their country. Pablo stopped struggling. All that echoed in his mind was Victor's one line. Gabrielle just fell asleep. He knew. He knew she was resting. He knew her schedule. That could only mean one thing. They were already together. The image of Gabriela nestled against Victor, whispering intimately, tore through Pablo's chest like a blade. And this was just his imagination, yet even that pain was unbearable. Gabriela Ren had once, time and again, witnessed him tangled with Sabrina. How much must it have hurt her back then? No wonder she withered so quickly after regaining her sight. No wonder she'd rather fake her death than stay. Now he finally understood that kind of despair. Hatred flared in Pablo's bloodshot eyes. If Sabrina hadn't seduced him, he and Gabrielle would have never come to this. Victor had even sent 4 bodyguards to force him and Ryan onto the plane to ensure their departure from F country. Watching the buildings grow smaller below, Pablo made a silent vow. He would return. At least one thing Victor said was right. He hadn't even dealt with Sabrina yet. What right did he have to beg Gabriela for forgiveness? Back then, Sue's mother had hidden Sabrina away, fearing Pablo might hurt her and the unborn child. But she had once told him Sabrina's due date. He hadn't cared then, but vaguely remembered it should still be about a month away. Sabrina must have somehow heard that he and Ryan had gone to F country to find Gabriela. Fearing that Gabriela would return and take everything, she panicked and forced that bastard child into the world early. Now that the baby was born, there was no need to hide Sabrina anymore. It was easy to find the hospital she was staying in. Pablo and Ryan headed straight there upon landing. In the hospital room, Sue's mother was cooing over the baby, while Sabrina lay in bed calling her mom in an overly sweet tone. The moment she saw Pablo, her face lit up in a beaming smile. Honey, you came to see the baby? As if she'd forgotten he'd nearly killed her, Sue's mother also moved closer with the baby in her arms. Pablo, come look at your son. Isn't he adorable? Without even looking, Pablo snatched the baby and made to throw him to the ground. Sabrina screamed in terror. Sue's mother clutched his arm, barely preventing it. She yanked the baby back and cradled him protectively, then slapped Pablo hard across the face. What are you doing? That's your own son. Pablo's eyes were crazed. Gabrielle isn't dead. I've asked her for forgiveness. That baby and Sabrina can't exist. Sue's mother froze. What? Gabrielle's not dead? She knew about Gabriela's restored eyesight. Honestly, in her eyes, her son Pablo was perfect. No woman was good enough for him. Even though Gabriela lost her sight saving him, she had always disapproved of having a disabled woman as a daughter-in-law. But Pablo was obsessed with Gabriela, refused to marry anyone else. Then came Sabrina, lowborn. Yes, but healthy and pregnant. Now that Gabriela had recovered, comparing the two, she still preferred the elegant and educated Gabriela as her daughter-in-law. Sue's mother pulled Pablo and Ryan into the hallway to talk quietly. The child is still yours. He has to be kept. As for Sabrina, give her a few million and be done with it. I'm sure Gabrielle won't mind. She's been with you for years and already had your child. No one else is going to want her now or give her the life of a wealthy wife. Don't chase her so hard, ignore her for a bit and she'll come back on her own. Pablo had no idea where his mother got such confidence. No one else would want Gabriela. Just picturing Gabriela and Victor possibly being sweet together, possibly having already done everything, made his face go dark. To hell with the child. To hell with Sabrina. He would only ever have one wife, Gabriela. Any future children would be hers alone. Unbeknownst to them, Sabrina stood behind the hospital door. Having heard everything, her eyes were full of calculation. Even if the Xu family had lost its former glory, a fallen camel was still bigger than a horse. A mere few million to get rid of her? Dream on. At that moment, she devised the perfect plan. She secretly spent a fortune getting a paternity test between Pablo and the baby, and had a friend deliver live stream equipment to her. Even in postpartum confinement, she made herself look fragile and pitiful. Her pale, swollen face was carefully positioned in front of the camera. Once everything was ready, Sabrina lifted the test result with trembling fingers, tears spilling down her face. Everyone. I'm Sabrina, the fiancée of Xu Corporation's CEO, Pablo. Today, I'm live streaming to demand justice for our child. In the live stream, Sabrina Lin held a newborn swaddled in a blanket, her voice choked with emotion. This baby is less than a week old, but his father refuses to acknowledge him. This is the paternity test. 99% match with Pablo. He promised to marry me. Said he only loved me. That's why I gave birth to this child. But now, not only does he deny it, he even tried to kill the baby. The viewers, at first, didn't recognize who she was, but after some online sleuths shared her background, it hit them. This was the same woman who'd come between Pablo and Gabriela half a year ago, and now she had the audacity to call herself his fiancé? The internet exploded with rage. Homewrecker, your child is a bastard. Both of you should rot. The man is trash too. Let them both burn. And that stupid kid calling the mistress mommy? Disgusting. She's just trying to milk Pablo for money, using the baby to play the pity card. Pathetic. Still, the child is innocent. The comments were a mix of condemnation and pity, but Sabrina didn't care. Her goal was already achieved. She was about to keep milking sympathy when the live stream abruptly cut out. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. A second later, Pablo kicked open the door to the hospital room. Sabrina clutched the baby and gave him a smug smile. Pablo, I still love you. I truly want to be your wife. Pablo stared at her coldly, eyes full of contempt. Love? This woman didn't love anyone but herself and money. All at once, a deep sorrow overwhelmed him. Only Gabriela had truly loved him, and he had destroyed that love with his own hands. He shut his eyes in pain. When he opened them again, all he felt towards Sabrina was hatred. She wanted to manipulate public opinion with the child, force him into marriage. Not a chance. Without delay, Pablo released a statement through his own verified account, his own copy of the paternity test. But the results were completely different. Pablo Xu is not biologically related to Sabrina Lin's child. Two drastically conflicting paternity reports. The internet was thrown into chaos. Even Xu mother, watching it unfold, was stunned. What's going on? Is this child my grandson or not? Pablo's expression was cold. Of course not. Sabrina stared at him in disbelief. She had never imagined Pablo would go this far, fabricate a DNA test just to disown her and the baby. He'd rather wear the shame of being cheated on than be tied to her. She looked pleadingly to Xu mother, who wore a clearly doubtful expression. Sabrina crawled forward and grabbed her leg. Mom, listen to me. His report is fake. You can take the baby and do another test yourself. Xu mother looked down at her calmly from the sofa. And then what? You or Pablo could bribe another lab. Alter the results again. How would I ever know the truth? Two opposing test results meant the baby's identity was forever in doubt. Even if a third test came back showing he was her grandson, that sliver of doubt would always fester in her heart. She made her decision. Better to not acknowledge him at all than live with a lie. She still had Ryan. Sabrina's child would just have to remain an unfortunate mistake. That same day, Xu mother blocked Sabrina's number completely. Even when Sabrina knelt outside the Xu family villa with the child in her arms all day, she never came out again. Sabrina then tried her luck at Xu Group headquarters, where she had once come and gone freely. Now, guards were posted at every entrance. She was stopped like a criminal. She waited for hours until she finally saw the Xu father and son exit. With one loud thump, she dropped to her knees. Tears streamed down her face as she begged, Pablo, you used to love this child so much. You'd talk to him every night through my belly. Look at him. He looks just like you. Ryan, you always said you wanted a little sister. Okay, this is a brother. But I can have more. I'll keep trying until I give you the sister you want. But her pitiful display only made Pablo and Ryan furious. They remembered everything. The betrayal, the lies, the moments Gabriela had witnessed with her own eyes. He, whispering to Sabrina's belly, Ryan, calling her mommy, while Gabriela stood silently beside them, her heart shattering. Pablo's voice was low and cold. "Get lost. Put her down." The father and son roared in unison. Pablo waved his hand, and the bodyguards immediately stepped forward to drag Sabrina away. Sabrina struggled to push the baby toward them, but the cloth covering the child's face slipped, revealing a lifeless, pale face, cold as death. One of the bodyguards instinctively let go and recoiled in horror. "Mr. Xu, something's wrong with the baby." Sabrina stared blankly at the child in her arms. She couldn't remember the last time the baby cried. She couldn't even remember the last time she fed him. Had she smothered her own child to death with her own hands? Sabrina clutched the baby's corpse tightly, eyes slowly rising to meet the gazes of the Xu father and son, only to see a flicker of satisfaction flash across their faces. Pablo looked down at her, cool and composed. "Let's end this. On top of the 5 million I promised you, I'll throw in a villa. Just never appear in front of me again." Sabrina stared at the two of them with hatred. She had ended up like this because of them, and now they wanted to cast her off like trash. 5 million? For most people, that would mean a lifetime of luxury. But Pablo had spoiled her for years: handbags, jewelry, every gift worth millions. 5 million was nothing to her now. Besides, she'd lived the life of a wealthy wife for so long she could never return to working. She looked down on the pittance a job could earn. If she left Pablo, she'd have to find another rich man to fund her lifestyle. But her reputation was in ruins. No man would want her. No respectable wife would tolerate her around. So she couldn't leave him. Without him, she'd have nothing. She needed to cling to Pablo. Only he could give her the life she craved. She'd gone through a dangerous delivery, born a child, tried to use the baby to force Pablo to marry her. And now, the very tool she planned to use, her last bargaining chip, had died by her own hand. Sabrina snapped. She sat beneath the Xu Corporation building, cradling her baby's corpse, weeping and laughing like a madwoman. Meanwhile, Pablo and Ryan boarded a plane back to F country. Now that all the problems were solved, they could finally return to beg Gabriela for forgiveness. In F country, with Victor and Olivia's support, Gabriela founded her own fashion label. Her bold color choices and unique sense of design made her debut piece an instant sensation, drawing attention from the international fashion design community. Soon, she received a formal invitation to participate in a world-renowned fashion design competition. Gabriela clutched the invitation, full of anxiety. "Victor, should I go? All the other contestants have signature works and years of experience. I've only been learning for less than a year." Victor Li set down his phone and took her hand seriously. "Design isn't about how long you've been doing it. It's about talent and inspiration. And in those things, you're not lacking at all. Worst case, if you don't win anything, at least it'll be a great learning experience." He understood that what Gabriela lacked wasn't ability, it was confidence. Years of living in darkness had planted deep insecurity in her heart, and Pablo and Ryan Xu's betrayal had made her sensitive and guarded. What she needed was someone to remind her she wasn't inferior. Gabriela curled her arms around Victor's neck, lost in thought over his words. Just then, Victor's phone buzzed. He glanced at it quickly, then leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to Gabriela's lips. "Gabri, I have something I need to take care of. We'll talk more tonight." With that, he left in a rush. Gabriela stared blankly at his retreating figure, an odd unease growing in her chest. The moment felt strangely familiar. Victor had been busy a lot lately, though he still carved out time for her every day. There was a growing sense of secrecy. He used to tell her his daily schedule in detail. Now, it was always the same excuse: "I'm going to the office." That excuse, it echoed too closely to the ones Pablo used to give. Gabriela's heart trembled. They'd only just started their relationship. Could Victor already be hiding something from her? She didn't dare finish the thought. She told herself not to be paranoid. Victor was someone she could trust. Gabriela found Olivia and was just about to ask if something had happened with the Li family when she pushed open the door and caught Olivia hurriedly trying to hide something. "What's with the guilty conscience?" Gabriela asked, half joking. Olivia waved her hands nervously. "Nothing. What do you need?" Gabriela sat beside her, probing casually. "What's your brother been up to lately? He's always sneaking around." A flicker of unease passed over Olivia's face. Nothing weird. He's the CEO of a major company. He's always busy. Don't overthink it. Really? Olivia nodded emphatically. Really? Weren't you working on that design competition? Go focus on that. Gabriela didn't press further. They had been best friends for years. Gabriela could tell with a glance when Olivia was lying. Victor and Olivia were definitely hiding something from her. Still, she sighed. Even if Victor was hiding something, even if he betrayed her, she was no longer the Gabriela of the past. She had her own career now, her own dreams. She wouldn't fall apart again. With that, Gabriela buried herself in the competition, pouring all her energy into designing. In spare moments, she skimmed news from home. Sabrina Lin's child. One day declared Pablo's son, the next, not. She thought it might sting, maybe feel satisfying, but it didn't. She felt nothing. Whatever pain Pablo Xu and Ryan had caused her had already been healed by Victor. Still, when she thought of Victor, a trace of doubt stirred in her heart. But she reminded herself, she had chosen him. She had to believe him. She revised her design sketch again and again, submitting her final entry just in time. After a week of tense waiting, the results were announced. Gabriela was invited to the final award ceremony. As she stood in front of the mirror adjusting her gown, Victor appeared behind her, gently clasping a pearl necklace around her neck. Beautiful. Do you like it? He kissed her cheek tenderly, his gaze full of affection. Gabriela touched the glowing pearl, turned around in his arms, and faced him. Will you come with me today? If I win, I want you there. Victor sighed, pulling her close. I want to, but there's something important I have to take care of. Gabriela lowered her eyes. All right, go then. As her car drove away, Olivia crossed her arms. She definitely thinks you're cheating. You didn't see her face. She was about to cry. Victor gave her a firm smack on the head. What kind of guy do you think your brother is? Now move. We're gonna be late. At the award ceremony, Gabriela sat alone in the audience, mind spinning with thoughts of what Victor's important task might be. She was so lost in thought. She didn't hear her name until someone nudged her. The host repeated with a smile, "Congratulations to Miss Ren for winning first place. Please come to the stage to receive your award." Her design flashed across the massive screen, clean lines, bold vision, timeless beauty. The CEO of a renowned luxury brand waited on stage to present the trophy. Gabriela rose, glowing under the spotlight as she raised the trophy. The applause was thunderous. Thank you to the judges for this honor, and to one person in particular, though he's not here today. I hope he hears this. Also, I'll be donating the entire prize money to a global foundation for blind children, so more of them can one day see the light. She smiled warmly and turned to leave the stage. But the host called out behind her, "Miss Ren, wait, look over there. Is that the person you were hoping would come?" Suddenly, the entire venue transformed. The walls faded into soft hues of romantic pink. Animated vines bloomed with roses, petals spilling across the space like a dream. The scent of flowers filled the air, the illusion so vivid it felt real. Gabriela looked across the stage. Victor stood there, holding a bouquet, and step by step, he walked toward her, then dropped to one knee. Victor gently held Gabriela's hand and placed a soft kiss on her right knuckles. Then, with unwavering devotion in his voice, he asked solemnly, "Gabri, will you marry me?" Behind him, Olivia Li popped into view, holding a red velvet box. Inside gleamed a dazzling 10-carat pink diamond ring. Everyone present broke into warm, joyful smiles. Even among this crowd, seasoned in luxury, they couldn't help but whisper in awe, "Isn't that the pink diamond that sold at Sotheby's recently for over 100 million? Mr. Li really went all out. So romantic. Say yes already." Never mind the ring. That holographic projection alone is worth tens of millions. Look at how realistic it is. Even the texture on the petals is crystal clear. Like the old saying goes, even an iron tree will bloom for true love. Gabriela covered her mouth as tears spilled from her eyes. So this was the surprise they had been preparing all this time. She hadn't been forgotten by fortune after all. She accepted the bouquet and nodded through her choked sobs. I will." Victor gently slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood and drew her into his arms. Olivia cheered and clapped. "Kiss, kiss." Victor cupped Gabriela's face, looking at her flushed, shy expression. His heart surged. Just as their lips were about to meet, the door was flung open. "No, I object!" Pablo and Ryan burst in, faces twisted in anguish. They had only just tracked down Gabriela's location and rushed over with flowers in hand, only to find the scene before them. Pablo ran up to the stage and looked pleadingly at Gabriela. "Don't say yes to him. Please. I know I was wrong. I've cut all ties with Sabrina. The bastard child is dead. There's nothing standing between us anymore. We've loved each other for so many years. We have a child together. I'm begging you, please give me one more chance." Victor stepped in front of Gabriela and landed a punch that knocked Pablo to the floor. He crouched down, grabbing Pablo's collar. "Didn't get enough of a beating last time? Gabri is my fiancé now. Say one more word and I won't be so kind to the Xu family." Last time, Pablo hadn't known Victor even existed. This time, he came prepared, otherwise, he'd never have made it past Victor's security to get this close. Sure enough, a dozen bodyguards charged in from the entrance. Facing off with Victor's men, guests scattered to the corners, avoiding the conflict. Still kneeling, Pablo turned to Gabriela once more. "Gabri, I know I messed up terribly, but Sabrina meant nothing to me. She was just a physical release. The only woman I ever truly loved was you." He had only ever had eyes for Gabriela. He'd turned down countless women over the years for her. He didn't know what came over him that night. Sabrina was more forward, more seductive. He gave in, and when he found out he was her first, he felt guilty, and that guilt turned into indulgence. He kept seeing her, even let her move into the home he shared with Gabriela. At one point, he even fantasized that if Gabriela never regained her sight, he could have his heart with Gabriela and his body with Sabrina. That's why he let Sabrina keep the baby. He never imagined she'd grow so ambitious and confront Gabriela. And even more unexpected, miraculously, Gabriela did regain her vision. Now it was too late. All he could do was beg her forgiveness. Victor's fury flared again, but Gabriela stopped him. Placing a calming hand on his arm, she turned to Pablo. "Yes, we loved each other for years, and still, you cheated without hesitation. Now you stand here and ask me to forgive you? You say she meant nothing, yet you live like a happy family with her and Ryan. Do you really believe your own lies? Leave. I will never forgive either of you." Pablo collapsed, kneeling with his head to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Gabriela merely stepped back, indifferent. After all, why should she feel sympathy for a stranger's pain? "Mommy, do you really not want Ryan anymore? I miss you so much." At the sound of Ryan's voice, Gabriela finally turned her gaze to him. Ever since entering with Pablo, Ryan Xu had stood motionless, arms outstretched as he cautiously groped his way forward, his eyes void of light, dark and lifeless. Gabriela recognized that posture too well. It was how she used to move through the world. Even with all her resentment, she couldn't help but ask, "What happened to him?" Pablo replied with a heavy voice, "Psychogenic blindness. The doctor said his eyes and retina are physically fine. It's psychological. He's choosing not to see. He was her child after all, flesh of her flesh." Though her heart had long hardened, seeing him like this still stirred something within her. But it wasn't maternal love. It was compassion, pity for a lost, broken child. Suddenly, Ryan stumbled over the edge of a step and crashed to the ground. He trembled, tears welling in his eyes, but stubbornly tried to push himself back up. Gabriela rushed over to help him. Ryan clung to her the moment he recognized the familiar scent on her clothes. Tears fell freely now. "Mom, I can't see anymore. Only now do I understand the fear and helplessness you lived with all those years. But even then, you still gave birth to me. I was wrong. Can you not hate me anymore?" Gabriela stroked his hair gently. "I don't hate you, Ryan. I never did. But I also can't go back to living with you and your father. Go home. Don't come looking for me again." Pablo lifted Ryan into his arms, his voice trembling. "Do we really have no chance left?" Gabriela shook her head without hesitation. "None." Pablo and Ryan watched her walk away, running toward Victor, her figure glowing with resolve. And in that moment, they finally understood. This must have been how Gabriela once looked at them. Watching them walk away toward Sabrina, Pablo and Ryan returned to China. But as soon as they stepped off the plane, they were swarmed by reporters. Mr. Xu, how do you respond to Ms. Lin's accusation that you forced yourself on her? Will the Xu family offer financial compensation to settle this? Ms. Lin called herself your fiancée for months. Are you refusing to marry her now because your presumed dead wife, Gabriela, is alive? Pablo was stunned. He'd only been out of the country for a few days. What the hell had Sabrina done now? He ordered his bodyguards to open a path and jumped into the car, immediately calling his lawyer. What happened while I was gone? After the child incident, Sabrina's mental state became unstable. The Lin family took a $5 million settlement and brought her back to their hometown. But she escaped again. She returned and released an audio recording of you and her in the car. The lawyer paused. Based on the audio, it sounds like you were forcing her. Pablo's grip on the phone tightened. He hadn't realized it then, but Sabrina had been setting him up from the start. That day, she had seduced him, softly resisting while recording everything. He thought she was just teasing, not imagining that it would become evidence of assault. What does she want? She says she'll only stay quiet if you agree to meet and negotiate. If not, she's going to the police. Soon, Pablo Xu and Sabrina Lin once again trended online. The public hadn't even finished digesting the last scandal about Sabrina's child. Now, they were hit with a new headline: an assault allegation and a secret rendezvous at a cafe. Only this time, Sabrina pulled a knife. She lunged at Pablo without warning. A bystander managed to restrain her before the blow could be fatal. But even so, Pablo's back was soaked in blood. At the hospital, the doctors issued 3 consecutive critical condition notices. He was in surgery for 10 hours. They saved his life, but he fell into a deep coma. Prognosis uncertain. Sabrina Lin was convicted of attempted murder and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Meanwhile, in a sunlit bridal studio in France, Gabriela was trying on her wedding gown. Beaming, she turned toward the man behind her. When did you prepare this? Victor Li's ears turned red. The day you handed me your design sketch for school. I had it made to your exact vision. Gabriela grinned and tugged his ear. So confident. What if I said no? What a waste of fabric. Victor tilted his chin proudly. No way. I had faith in us. They were laughing, lost in each other's joy. When Gabriela's phone rang, an unknown number. The moment the call connected, Sue's mother's tearful voice came through. Pleading, Gabri, Mom is begging you on her knees. Please, just come see Pablo. You're the only reason he's still holding on. After listening to the full story, Gabriela replied calmly. Auntie, I'm about to get married, and honestly, I don't think my visit would improve Pablo's condition. If anything, what if seeing me makes him finally let go? She hung up and sat in silence for a moment, a wave of mixed emotions washing over her. Once the dazzling CEO of Xu Corporation, Pablo now lay unconscious in a hospital bed, with no sign of when, or if, he would ever wake up. Victor gently smoothed the crease between her brows. If you'd like, we can postpone the wedding and I'll go back with you. Gabriela shook her head. No need. As long as he still hopes I'll come back. He might cling to life, but if I do go, and he has no more regrets, he might really let go. Half a month later, Gabriela and Victor held their wedding at a seaside chapel. As the gentle melody of piano filled the air, Gabriela fulfilled a dream, walking down the aisle in the wedding dress she had designed herself. To the man she loved most, Victor slid the ring onto her finger, tears of emotion escaping his eyes. His long-standing love had finally come true. Gabri, thank you for marrying me, for making my dream real. Sobbing with joy, Gabriela wrapped her arms around his neck. Thank you, for giving me a home again. Before the priest and all their friends and family, they exchanged vows and sealed it with a kiss. At that very moment, in a quiet hospital room, Pablo's heart monitor emitted a harsh, continuous beep. Doctors and nurses rushed in, trying everything they could, but it was no use. The jagged lines on the monitor flattened into a straight line. Pablo Xu was gone. His father, paralyzed from a stroke, was long unable to care for himself. And now, the 2 pillars of the Xu family had collapsed, leaving only Sue's mother and the now blind Ryan. On the day of Pablo's funeral, Gabriela and Victor came too. They stood far back, quietly watching the burial and the placement of the headstone. Many visitors came, bowed 3 times and left. In the end, only Ryan remained, unwilling to leave. He sniffed the air, then softly asked, "Mom, are you here?" Gabriela stepped out from the shadows and gently embraced him. Her gaze fell on Pablo's headstone. Curiously, the photo used was from when he was 18, young, bright, full of life, smiling beneath the banyan tree on their school campus. "Gabri, I'll love you for the rest of my life. I'll never let you down. If I ever break that promise, may I be struck by lightning and die a terrible death." In that moment, all of Gabriela's love and hatred for Pablo dispersed completely. Like the others who had come and gone today, he had become nothing more than a passerby in her life. Her gaze finally landed on the boy crying in her arms, Ryan. She had nothing more to say to him. After a long silence, she simply whispered, "Stay with Grandma and live a good life." But Ryan didn't listen. At 18, after years of battling depression, Ryan Xu slit his artery. By the time Su's mother found him in the morning, his body was already cold. He left behind only one sentence as his will: "Please donate my corneas to someone who needs them." By then, Gabriela and Victor Li's child was already in middle school. The news struck her hard, and she spiraled into sadness for a long time. Victor, worried, canceled all his business obligations and took her traveling around the world. In the mornings, he would kiss her awake at their cabin at the foot of snowy mountains. At night, by a quiet lake, he would light a fire to grill the fish he had just caught. They would stroll hand in hand under a shared umbrella through rainy European towns. And wherever they went, Gabriela clung tightly to the man who never left her side. "Victor," she murmured into his chest. "Did I ever tell you? I love you so much."